So it turns out the most famous priestesses in the ancient world were actually high on methane gas for thousands of years. So what was going on? The Oracle of Delphi, or the Pythia, were priestesses of Apollo in Delphi, Greece. They were chosen from local women, and they were often celibate, widowed, elder, and had high moral standing. Originally, she only served oracles once a year, but due to popularity and the fact that Apollo left for the warmer months, they ended up doing them 9 times a year. But visitors couldn't just walk in and receive an oracle from the Pythia. They had to go through an elaborate process first. Visitors would have to offer sacrifices, namely goats, and they would be observed for their behavior. Then the Pythia would bathe in the Castalian spring to purify herself and chew on bay leaves, which were sacred to the god Apollo. And if this wasn't already crazy enough, she would go to a chasm beneath the temple of Apollo and sit on a tripod where gas would rise up from the earth. It was then said that they fell into a trance-like state where they would just mumble nonsensical things, and they were believed to be the word of Apollo himself. These mumblings were then translated by her male priest into verses or statements, and they were often deliberately ambiguous to keep her credibility. But during the Roman Empire, their popularity and credibility began to decline, and so did the institution itself. However, some emperors still respected the Oracle at Delphi, and Nero and Hadrian were documented visiting. Then Theodosius I banned pagan rituals, and the Oracle fell silent. By the 4th century CE, the Oracle of Delphi, which was once the voice of the gods, was a bygone relic. But nowadays, we have a very scientifically sound explanation for what was going on at the Temple of Apollo. In the 1990s, a geological team investigated the site, and what they found was truly fascinating. The Temple of Apollo in Delphi actually sits on 2 fault lines, the Delphi Fault and the Kurna Fault. These faults allowed gases from deep within the earth to rise up to the surface. And at this site, they found the presence of methane gas and ethylene gas. At low concentrations, this gas can cause feelings of euphoria, lightheadedness, floating sensations, and mild hallucinations. At slightly higher concentrations, this can lead to trance states, hallucinations, and unconsciousness without being fatal. And we actually have historical texts to back this up. Plutarch himself wrote that the Pythia's trance was caused by a pneuma, which was a vapor rising from the ground. He even stated that it sometimes damaged the Pythia's health. So what do you like to believe? Do you think this was actually the god Apollo talking through these women, or do you think they were just high?